Out in the middle of the Indian Ocean, far from television studios and political stages, something quietly happened that most people never saw coming. No breaking news banners, no emergency alerts, no dramatic footage looping on cable news. Just open water. A Chinese vessel moving steadily through one of the world's most sensitive maritime corridors. And then, U.S. forces appeared. There were no warning shots, no shouting across decks, no sudden chaos. And yet, those who understand power know this moment mattered. Because in today's world, the most important confrontations don't always look like confrontations at all. When the first reports surfaced, many assumed this was a dramatic seizure, a bold move, a show of force. But that assumption misses the real story. This was not a spontaneous decision. It was not emotional, and it was certainly not accidental. Modern naval operations do not rely on guesswork. Long before ships come into visual range, they are already known, tracked, logged, analyzed. Routes are studied, patterns are noticed, timelines are compared. So when U.S. forces approached this Chinese vessel, they were not reacting, they were executing. Every movement followed procedure, every communication stayed controlled, every word over the radio was chosen carefully. Because in waters like these, one careless sentence can ripple far beyond the horizon.
The Indian Ocean is often described as a trade highway, but that description barely scratches the surface. This ocean carries the lifeblood of the global economy, energy shipments from the Middle East, manufactured goods from Asia, critical raw materials moving toward markets across Europe and North America. Nearly 1/3 of the world's trade flows through these waters. And wherever trade flows, power follows. For decades, the United States and its allies have maintained a strong naval presence here, not for spectacle, but for predictability. The idea was simple: keep sea lanes open, keep trade moving, reduce uncertainty. China, however, views the same waters through a different lens. For Beijing, the Indian Ocean is not optional, it is essential. Energy security depends on it. Supply chains rely on it. Economic growth is tied to it. As China's global footprint expanded, its ships began appearing farther from home, at first quietly, then regularly, then strategically. Commercial vessels, research ships, logistics platforms, each voyage framed as peaceful, each mission described as routine. And individually, many of them are. But collectively, they signal something larger. They signal presence, and presence invites attention. That is why this encounter happened, not because one side wanted conflict, but because both sides wanted clarity. In modern geopolitics, clarity is power. No shots were fired that day, but make no mistake, a message was delivered. The United States was saying, "We are here, we see you, and these waters are not unobserved." China was responding, without words, "We are operating within our understanding of the rules, and we are not backing away." This was not escalation. This was calibration, a test of proximity, a measurement of restraint. And restraint, in moments like this, is not weakness. It is discipline. It is confidence. It is the understanding that loud actions create unpredictable reactions. What followed the encounter was just as telling as the encounter itself. No dramatic press conferences, no accusations framed in inflammatory language, no sudden policy shifts announced on camera. Instead, silence. Shipping companies quietly reviewed routes. Insurance analysts updated risk assessments. Defense experts took notes. Markets didn't panic, but they paid attention. Because markets respond to patterns, not headlines. And the pattern here is unmistakable. Naval encounters are becoming more frequent, more calculated, more normalized. This is how competition looks in the 21st century. Not invasion, not occupation, but positioning. The Indian Ocean has become a chessboard where pieces move slowly, deliberately, and with long memory. Every encounter becomes data, every response becomes precedent, and every precedent shapes the next move. History shows us that major shifts rarely announce themselves loudly at the beginning. They arrive quietly, almost politely. A routine inspection, a calm radio exchange, a ship slowing down in open water. These moments don't feel historic when they happen, they feel procedural. But years later, analysts point back and say, that was the moment things began to change. This incident may never dominate headlines. It may never receive a documentary of its own. But for those watching closely, it fits into a much larger picture. A world where power is exercised carefully, where restraint carries more weight than aggression, and where oceans, once seen as empty spaces, have become arenas of silent competition. The Indian Ocean is no longer just water between continents. It is a strategic stage. And on that stage, every move matters, especially the ones made without noise. This story is not about a ship, and it is not about a single encounter. It is about how global power now reveals itself, quietly, deliberately, and with consequences that unfold over time, not minutes. What makes moments like this so significant is not what happens on the surface, but what changes beneath it. Naval officers on both sides understood that this encounter would be studied long after the ships moved on. Every maneuver, every pause, every second of radio silence. These details matter because they become reference points. In future encounters, commanders will ask, what did we do last time? How did they respond? How far can we go without crossing a line? This is how unwritten rules are formed, not in conference rooms, not in press statements, but at sea, under pressure, with real consequences. The Indian Ocean is particularly dangerous for miscalculation because it sits at the intersection of too many interests. Too many economies depend on it. Too many militaries operate within it. Too many political ambitions overlap here. Unlike closed seas, there is no single authority, no shared command structure, only mutual observation. That means trust is limited, and assumptions can be costly. For the United States, maintaining presence here is about credibility. If U.S. forces appear absent or hesitant, allies notice. And when allies notice, confidence erodes. For China, sustained movement through these waters is about normalization. The more often Chinese vessels operate without incident, the more ordinary their presence becomes. And when presence becomes ordinary, influence follows. This is why neither side wants to be the first to overreact. Escalation would shatter years of careful positioning. So instead, they push gently, they observe reactions, they adjust. It is slow, it is quiet, and it is intentional. Some observers ask why incidents like this don't lead to immediate confrontation. The answer is simple. Modern power is patient. Unpredictable conflict is expensive, politically risky, but controlled encounters achieve something more useful. They test resolve without committing to consequences. They allow each side to learn about the other, not through words, but through behavior. How close will they approach? How long will they stay? How quickly will they disengage? These questions matter more than public statements, because statements can be walked back, actions cannot. This particular encounter also highlights a shift in how global audiences consume power struggles. In the past, tension required spectacle, missiles, troop movements, clear enemies. Today, tension often looks boring to the untrained eye. A ship slowing down, another ship matching speed, a quiet exchange over radio. But within that boredom lies strategy, and within that strategy lies the future balance of power. There is another reason incidents like this remain understated. Both Washington and Beijing understand that public fear can become a force of its own. If headlines scream escalation, markets react. If markets react, politicians are pressured. If politicians are pressured, options narrow. Silence keeps options open. That silence after the encounter was not absence of information, it was management. Management of perception, management of risk, management of expectations. This is how serious powers behave when they are not ready for conflict, but not willing to retreat. The Indian Ocean will continue to see more of these moments, more close encounters, more inspections, more calculated displays of presence. Not because war is inevitable, but because competition is. And competition, unlike war, can last decades. History teaches us something uncomfortable. The most stable periods are often filled with quiet tension. The Cold War, at its peak, was not defined by constant fighting. It was defined by restraint, signaling, and constant testing of limits. What we are seeing now feels familiar to those who studied that era. Different geography, different technology, same psychology. Not with a confrontation, not with a declaration, but with a reminder. In today's world, power rarely announces itself with noise. It reveals itself through control, timing, and restraint. Out there in the Indian Ocean, nothing dramatic happened, and yet everything important was communicated. Two global powers looked at each other, measured the moment, and chose discipline over drama. That choice tells us more about the future than any headline ever could. Because the battles that shape history are not always fought. Some are simply acknowledged, quietly, carefully, and far from the cameras. And when those moments pass without chaos, it doesn't mean nothing happened. It means the system is holding. For now. This is State View, looking past the noise, understanding the meaning behind the silence.